All right, welcome back for Les Kevin, more tech at UTEC IT. Unless you are here today because somebody bailed you out of the ditch, right? A little snow spun you in the ditch, right? And who was there? Johnny on the spot was not a tow truck driver.
Well, I mean, Kevin, we know the size of our audience in the tens of thousands of people, right? So I really couldn't show up in a tow truck, right? I had to show up in a limousine, a very nice limousine, quality limousine. So introduce our guest, Kevin.
Who? None other.
Yep.
Some call him the real mayor of Ann Arbor, the real governor of Washtenaw County. But there's none other than Sean Duval and Golden Limousine, who makes the world golden, right?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. I got to hear more about this sliding into a ditch thing.
Well, right there in the spot, man. Golden Limo was right there. They
Right?
picked him up, man. We got him in the car. We got him to the show. You know, that's what we need to negotiate. Instead of a bourbon sponsor, we need to have like a transportation sponsor.
Beautiful.
Maybe get gold. That's maybe why we brought Golden Limo on here today.
And
they would agree to pick us up and shuttle us to and from.
now we're spitballing ideas now. How
Okay.
about Golden Helicopter?
Well, we were thinking more of the drone.
All right.
We could just control the passengers while we're sitting on our dispatch office.
Well, Sean, I'm tickled we got you to come in because we're friends, and I'll preface this with you've never had a friend until you've had Sean Duval as a friend, and then you know what a friend's like. You know, this guy has been remarkable. We met each other through business in Washtenaw County. We're both trying to figure out business along the way, and I was proud this fall you were recognized by the Boy Scouts of Washtenaw County as the corporate business of the year. You got a great team down there. Maya, give a shout out to her and to everybody. But super staff, tell us a bit about Golden Limo.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you were there with us when we got the award for the Boy Scouts of America. That was pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah. It was really
community
cool.
Citizen, and nice little event. They held it in person, which was cool.
Yes,
Right.
yes. One of your favorite spots.
Over there at Barton Hills.
Barton Hills, right.
Unfortunately, they wouldn't let us go golf, but that's all right. Golden Limousine is just a labor of love. I love being there. I love my people that work there. We've seen so much over the years. We've celebrated our 30th anniversary this past month. I know, it's crazy.
That's fantastic, though.
I'll tell you a little bit of a story.
Yeah, we'll talk about some challenges of that.
I'll tell you a little bit of a story, but when I was in prison, all my friends now are retiring from that episode. So they're all, I can see them doing their retirements, and they've got their 20, 25 years in, and they're texting me, "Hey, Duval, we're having my retirement party." And here I'm still slugging away over at Golden. I left there, and all those guys said, "Why? How could you possibly leave? How could you possibly
before
leave?"
you get too much longer, we got to. That's a little inside joke when we talk about Sean and his time in prison. He was he started out in the culinary department over there, and you got to go home every night. You did 8 hours in there, but you got to go home every night.
I did my 5 years in prison, 8 hours at a time.
But no, you worked with the folks there, and you counseled and coached and
Food service supervisor. I didn't know how to cook a single thing except for McDonald's hamburgers, because that's where it came from. But my boss, when he hired me, said, "I didn't hire you because you know how to cook. I hired you because you know how to talk to people. These guys know how to cook. They'll teach you how to cook." So that was kind of cool. It's a good time.
You said Golden Limo, you're 30 years. It's been remarkable, and I want to get into some of the challenges because I don't think people appreciate just how you've had to reinvent and the comeback stories you've had and all that. But it's a hobby for you. I don't think it's a job. It's a hobby because I think your first job is you're one of the great connectors, and I've learned this from just watching you and being around you. But you're so adept at bringing people together, and it's your need. You're not trying to sell anybody anything. You're not trying. You just want to connect people. You want to uplift everything there, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on. You want people to do well. You want the region to do well, and you understand that. You're looking at the big picture, long game, where too often we get caught in the middle, don't we?
You're absolutely right, and I think that it starts in concentric circles. So it starts with your family, your neighborhood, the little community that you live in, and you just keep growing from there. And that's our individual responsibilities. So I'm a incredible, serious homer. So yes, I love the Lions. I don't know why I love the Lions. I absolutely think that this is going to be their year every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the Pistons, the Red Wings, Michigan
Actually,
football.
From the Lions' perspective, we're coming up on our version of the Super Bowl, which is, the draft, right?
Exactly.
That's our
Well, I
biggest.
thought you meant that we had M&M there and we had Stafford in. That was our Super Bowl as a Lions fan.
You buy in every year. But my point in that is that I love Detroit. People, when you go out away, you have to say, I'm from Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Ann Arbor, but it's the Detroit
Southeast
region.
Michigan.
And it's okay. Detroit takes its lumps. People beat up on Detroit a lot, but we know and love Detroit. And I feel like community is what we got, and it's up to us to make the community better. And so that's how Golden Limousine has approached its business community, or being in the business community, is that it's up to us to make our community better.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely, what a great statement. I don't care about how you cook. I'm hiring you because you know how to talk to people, and that's really the truth. And you see it in all your employees whenever you talk to somebody from Golden Limo. But you see it in how you bring people. If they're too high, you bring them down, right? And if they're too low and in the community, you bring them up, and you're like, hey, we're going to get through this together. And you're all about second chances, giving people opportunities. And I just love it. There's not a nonprofit you don't work with in Southeast Michigan, whether it's in Ann Arbor area or Detroit. I mean, tell us some of the boards you sit on.
Yeah.
Listen,
again, it's really interesting that being in Washtenaw County, there's so many nonprofits. There's so many organizations that are trying to do good. And, I started out really in the soccer world, I guess, working on the Milan Soccer Club and helping that organization. And, I didn't have time to leave every day at 3:00 in the afternoon and go coach a team, or, stay out till 8:00 at night for the board meetings, but it's just what you got to do. My kids play soccer. So again, those concentric circles, you got to be there and be a part of that. And so I did. And, a board came along called Ellie's Place. My good friend, your good friend, Mark, we met, says, I got to put my best man on it. And he invited me to join the board, and I thought, that's pretty cool, Mark.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't until later in one of the subsequent meetings that he said, okay, I got to put my best man on it. And he pointed at somebody else, and I went, oh, that's just something.
That's his line.
Sean didn't understand it, that your wallet had to come out, but yeah.
But the same goes for Mark. We met, introduced me to the Ypsilanti Chamber. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting how that worked out, because the Ypsilanti Chamber eventually merged with the Ann Arbor Chamber, and I was part of that process. And as we went along, bringing those two communities together, you could really see how passionate people are about their community and how much they need their identity of their local community. Now, we're all in the Detroit region. Mm-hmm. We could say we're in the Ann Arbor region. But you can't tell somebody from Ypsilanti that you're in the Ann Arbor region. No, you just can't. Yeah. They would rather be in the Detroit region than the Ann Arbor region. And that's okay. They have, I say we, because I lived there for quite a number of years, but we have such a pride about our community. We don't want anybody taking away the Ypsilanti name, and we don't want anybody taking away the pride of the Ypsilanti community. But bringing those two boards together, you could really feel that, really sense that. And the same fast forward to some of the other boards, like Destination Ann Arbor. It was formerly Ann Arbor Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And we merged that with the Ypsilanti Convention and Visitors Bureau. And again, that was a year-long process, and just passion, so much passion.
Sean, what I'm hearing you say, you're really speaking to culture.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. absolutely.
And so you got two communities right next to each other.
And polar opposites.
Yeah, culturally unique, and that's something that we have to respect
and embrace.
Exactly.
Embrace.
I'm surprised this guy's still standing because as you said, passion is a strong word. And we were together on the IPSI to Ann Arbor Chamber Board transition, but and then on the heels of doing that, you turned around and you were the chair of that chamber, and then you turned around and you worked very closely with Mary Kerr and her staff, but you brought the IPSI Visitor and Convention Bureau together with the Ann Arbor, and we made an even greater organization, Destination Ann Arbor, and how you've combined those two with your leadership, but still kept them with the identity and understood the importance. I don't think anybody could do that.
Yeah, I'd like to know a little bit about that, because culture to me, every, just opinion, right, is culture is really all about attitudes and beliefs and behaviors of a group of people. And so we develop culture almost, on its own. But yet when we try to do, from a business perspective, merge companies with different cultures, different people, sometimes it doesn't work out.
Well, sure. You have to really understand that people need their needs met. And they want to be heard. They want to be listened to. And that's a really difficult thing for a lot of people to do, because your first thought is, we're doing this because I know what's best. I know what to do. But what you think you may just not really not be listening, not understanding what that other person needs. And so that's what we did really well, I think, is listen. We went into it thinking we knew best, that we knew that we could promote the region in a really, really powerful way. And what we learned is that the Ypsilanti community can stand on its own. It has its own voice, and we need to make sure that that voice is heard. It's a very artistic community. They are very, very passionate about their work ethic. I mean, those guys go to work and they just put time in. And, they don't like frou-frou. They like authenticity. They like real.
Gritty.
And that's why they're called Ipsy Real. I can't believe I just said that. That's why they're called Ipsy Real, because, it's just truly real people. And, the other thing that we tried to do is make the organization representative of the community. And candidly, when you looked at the old organization, you wouldn't know that it was as diverse a community as it is, because the collateral, the material that they put out didn't really show the diversity of the community. It would show the really cool events like Elvis Fest or Pride or something like that. But then it was really difficult to see any of that diversity. And so that's one of the things that we really focused on, is making sure that the things that we put out really represented the people that lived in the community. And I think that's one of the things that helped
bring the cultures
community
together.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also realized that it's okay that they're two different cultures sitting side by side. We weren't trying to merge them together as much as recognize these two cultures sitting side by side and give them both a voice and give the world an opportunity to see, when you come to this region, you're going to experience a lot of different things. We mostly talk about Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor, but Chelsea sits out there on the west side of the county, and it's got an entirely different culture. So when you think about from Chelsea to Ann Arbor to Ypsilanti, you truly run the entire gamut. And it's really cool when one of the things that we do at Destination Ann Arbor is we bring writers in from around the world. And what's cool about that is they can go anywhere in the world. They choose to come to Ann Arbor. So as we bring them in and we take them around to the different communities, you get to experience Chelsea, and you get to experience Manchester, and you go downtown in Milan and Ypsilanti.
You bring them in for the chicken fry?
I don't know if we've been to the chicken fry with them, but they know about it, and they can, it's really cool when they tell the stories of that. And then you get to also experience the amazing restaurants.
Well, you may not know this, and I'm afraid we'll get stuck on this, but Les's mother just celebrated her 100th birthday.
Yeah.
And she was one of the original Rosie the Riveters.
Yeah.
And they had her up in the bomber. And
that's so awesome.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that later. I want to stay focused on Going Limo and what you're doing. you sit on many different boards, right? So WCC Foundation.
Washington Community College, yeah.
Yep. And you're on Ann Arbor Community Foundation. You've been in, I'm forgetting a couple, but the Work Skills Development or Workforce.
Michigan Works, yeah.
Michigan Works, thank you. And then the Chamber. Destination Ann Arbor seems like a real passion. I know you and Mary Kerr fit like a glove with the leadership and the style, and you're data driven. But do you feel that gives you the best place to make the impact and the difference? Or
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the challenges of being in the nonprofit world is that you have a solution that you want to solve whatever problem there is, and it silos you.
mm-hmm.
And you don't realize that there's other people, working on the same solution, but working on adjacent issues within the county. And if you can break down silos and get organizations working together, then you all of a sudden have the ability to leverage those dollars. That's what we're looking for is how do we get Washtenaw Community College and the Ann Arbor Community Foundation and Destination Ann Arbor all to work together and leverage their resources. We found a way to have culinary arts scholarships, hospitality scholarships at Washtenaw Community College, funded by Destination Ann Arbor, totally free to the student, and give them an opportunity to go from where they are in the hospitality world to another level and get them working in a managerial role or a skilled trade role. It was a really cool program. It was recognized at the state level, but it was two organizations coming together and collaborating. And if we can break down those silos, well, when you're sitting at the board table and you know something about the other organization, it's easy to just say, oh, no, absolutely, they would love to work with you. And they have this program that you could work with. And being part of Ann Arbor Community Foundation, I'm realizing that they have such a huge reach.
Mm-hmm.
And there's such a level of trust in that organization that when they come to the table, similar to Destination Ann Arbor, but maybe on a grander scale, the Ann Arbor Community Foundation brings a level of trust to the equation that you know that they're going to do it at a very high level. They're going to be completely invested. They're not going to do it halfway. They're there for sustainability. Whatever they do, they're doing for the long term, not a, we'll check it out for a couple of months, and if we don't like it, we'll walk away. They've already done their homework, so they know they're going to invest for the long term. So like when you bring those kinds of resources to the table, you can start to address some of the challenges of the community. And then when you can also bring other organizations together with them, all of a sudden you're making a real impact.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love about being on these different boards, because you're always in the know.
Well, I've always thought we had you strategically placed with Mary Kirk, Destination Ann Arbor, with the Dr. Rose Blanca with WCC, because you could pool those resources. You could give them directed and creating jobs and creating opportunities for people that.
How do you? So there's so many people trying to do good out there, and what I'm hearing you say is if we can all get in the rowboat and rowing in the same direction, you can actually have a multiplier effect to the good. But how do you find out about all these other organizations and what their goals and ambitions are? Because I hear you. The challenge is bringing the folks together, but first you got to realize they're out there.
It starts with being in the room. I think that's the first
Engagement.
part. You've got to start. Yeah, it starts with showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend Carol Hoffer, you guys know Carol, Northwestern Mutual, I think is where she's with, and she invited me to participate. She told me to come to a meeting. It was way back in the day when the Red Wings won the Stanley Cup. And right after that, a limo driver crashed 3 Red Wings into a tree. And all of a sudden, the limo companies were like the bad guys. And she just said, listen, come to the chamber, talk to us about it, get engaged.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And the minute I did it, everybody kind of took a breath. And they said, tell us about Golden. We want to talk to you. And that kind of got me started. I mean, I wasn't ready to go stand up in front of a room full of people and defend the limousine industry and explain why this Yahoo was, had been working 24 hours and fell asleep while I was driving. But what was really interesting was that people said, hey, I kind of like this guy. Let's get him on this board, or let's talk to him about this committee. but it takes you getting into the room, getting onto a board, getting onto a committee, and then all of a sudden, you get to be part of the solution. You get to start making some of those decisions or be part of those decisions that are being made.
Yeah, so it's actually a combination of purpose and passion.
Yeah, but think about this with Sean. It's vision and it's desire. Let's walk through. You've 30 years with Gold Limo here, okay? You just talked about, imagine running a business like transportation, shuttling corporate people around, and your competitor does something irresponsible like that, runs in a tree. There's a ripple effect to the rest of the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, blowback on that. Now, you finally get past that hurdle, right? And a few years later, a couple idiots hijack a plane and crash it into a tall building.
Mm-hmm.
And the death and destruction from that just brought everything to a halt. And there's a couple more. Listen to this lesson. Walk us through this and tell the people that when they think about what you've had to face.
It's really interesting because I was on the heels of a major recession, right? So it was a really tough recession. George Bush just coming into office and coming off of that time period, and to see how amazing it looks to have no planes in the sky is just you look up.
I
and there's
remember
nothing
that.
there.
You're right.
Yeah. We have a radar screen that we can track all the flights that are in the air. And what was really amazing was to watch all of that screen just go blank. Where right when it's full, it's just a bunch of little dots, but you can't see the ground. You can't see the outline of the United States. And to watch that just go blank. And so that meant that one of the major ways that we generated revenue, taking people back and forth to the airport,
Disappeared.
Didn't exist anymore. People were not going to the airport for any reason.
But your expenses didn't disappear.
None of that disappeared. It was pretty crazy. And we ended up, we were already diversifying our company. So we were into buses and we had a bunch of stretch limousines. Well, we ended up Pfizer was a big customer of ours. And we ended up going to New York and going to Washington, D.C. and picking up people and bringing, because they were stranded, right?
Right.
So, and then we started taking people to Chicago on a regular basis and down to Cleveland and Columbus. And the diversity of our fleet saved us there because we were able to take large groups of people back and forth. And it was really, really challenging because all of a sudden there was no business.
But plus you had the ingenuity and the capability to pivot quickly.
Well, it's also, and Kevin knows this, it's relationships. So they, you know a guy, right? You always know a guy. Well, sometimes I'm the guy they know.
Yeah.
Right. I always can say, yeah, I know a guy. I can help you with that. But sometimes I'm the guy. And that was the case in this situation, that people were stranded all over the country.
Kevin, I'm seeing a t-shirt business here. I'm the guy.
Yeah. I'm the guy they know.
Well, there's two people I want their Rolodex. You know what I mean? I want Sean and I want Leonard Colbert, a buddy of mine. I'll give Leonard a shout out. But those two guys know anybody and everybody. They literally are. They're not
6 degrees.
Yeah, they're not 6 people away from Kevin Bacon. They're about 2.
Well, it's really interesting because that was so devastating for our industry, and we lost a lot of limousine companies during that time period. But that having those relationships, people knew they could count on us. We did that work, and that kept us until the air travel came back, and it's always fits and starts when you own your business because it just goes up, and then all of a sudden a recession or some kind of disaster happens, and you're right back down to the ground again, and hopefully it's a step, and not just you come crashing to the ground. You got to start all over.
So Pfizer, you're bailing these guys out, shuttling all the people around. You get a great contract going with them, right? And everything's going well. And I'm sure that's just great for Ann Arbor, right?
Yeah, it was fantastic for Ann Arbor. Pfizer was the most amazing thing in the world. We were actually interviewing in New York to take over part of their operation in New York, part of their operation in St. Louis, and then in Groton, Connecticut. And we were a finalist, at least for the Ann Arbor, to take over all of the Ann Arbor operation. And then all of a sudden, we got a phone call and said, hey, I need you to have about 8 or 10 cars out front. We're going to be sending a bunch of people home.
Oh, boy.
And then I got a phone call from one of my chauffeurs and says, "Hey, I just brought a guy in from the airport, and he says I heard him talking, and he says they're closing the Pfizer facility."
Mm.
And I said, "No, that's just, I mean, I'm half asleep." I said, "There's no way that's happening. Just why would you even say that?" And then David Cantor's assistant called me and said, "Sean, I've had some news for you. I need as many cars as you can get me. We're walking people out. We're closing the facility."
Yeah.
Oh, it was devastating because that was all of our eggs in, that big basket between University of Michigan and Pfizer, and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then they're gone. And it was so fast. They said, "We're going to take a year to do this," and they were gone in 2 months.
And so, strong business guy, what do? You pivot, and what next?
Well, similar to Michigan. I mean, we were devastated because we have this entire infrastructure around supporting the Pfizer jets. Pfizer out in Kalamazoo, we ran buses every single day to take colleagues out there. We ran shuttles around the community for Pfizer, and they were gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started selling everything. And, when you do that, anybody who knows anything about finance, you create a huge tax event.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that equipment that you've already fully depreciated now becomes income to you. And so hello IRS.
Paper cut.
Hello IRS.
Mm.
So we're paying off vehicles that were upside down in because they're fairly new. And we're taking the entire brunt of that on as income. And the IRS says, "We don't care if you don't have the cash. You owe the money." And that was a really, really big challenge.
Yeah.
We really
They're not going
thought
away.
that was it. It's the absolute worst collection agency in the world. They are ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
And it took some support from my good friend, and God rest him, John Dingell. The congressman stepped in, and we were being treated unfairly. And what's really interesting is that he just stepped in and said, "As long as you're willing to pay what you owe, I'll help." I said, "Absolutely. We just need them to let us, because all they're telling us is that we're coming.
Pay.
And he helped us work that out, and we did. And we ended up paying off everything that we owed. And what's really cool is then we started new relationships. We started building more relationships. So the University of Michigan became one of our key customers. And what was interesting about that is that they started getting a different level of service than they'd ever gotten before. And we really, really worked hard on the customer service side, so that every single time that they rode with us, it was just a better experience than it ever. And little by little, they just started coming over to us until we finally won the car service contract at U of M. That really helped solidify our revenue base so that we could really focus on just providing great customer service, bring customers in at a steady pace instead of, "Oh my God, where's our next meal coming from?"
Yeah, you've had recessions you've had to power through, economic downturns, and mortgage crises. You've also had challenges, right, where everybody jumped in a car and put a little flashing light on their dashboard. Now all of a sudden they could pick you up and shuttle you anywhere for $8 and not have to worry about insurance or the training or the safety or the screening. We all just jump in that. And, again, you're offering professional drivers screened, safety trained to take us to and from the airport. And that's a big challenge. And then you power through that, and we got a little
Virus
out there. I mean, geez.
Kevin, what's really interesting is that you can't fight what the public wants.
Mm-hmm.
The public wanted Uber and Lyft and all of those guys. They wanted that instant happiness, gratification that I can just press a button and a guy will show up.
Yeah, technology's driving some of that.
And they were willing to set aside the things that their parents told them: don't ride with strangers, and you shouldn't hitchhike. I mean, it was hitchhiking on steroids, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just whoever shows up, you jump in the car. That's the guy. Got to get in. And so the safety, the insurance, like you said, the training, all of those things went out the window. Like it wasn't valued. What we realized was that all of the fanfare, all of the love of this instant gratification that you got from Uber and Lyft didn't necessarily translate to our customers. Our customers were still, I need to know that the guy in the back seat is insured up to $5 million. I need to know that the person in the front seat has been trained on how to drive and how to provide customer service. I need to know that the vehicle has been inspected and maintained, and that, he's not riding on, bald tires or something like that. All those really
it's not Jimmy in
important
a red
things.
Honda, right?
There's a phrase that I came to know really well called duty of care. Well, if you're part of Citibank or Citigroup, you have a duty of care when you put one of your executives in the back seat of a car. And if you tell them, hey, it's okay to jump into an Uber, well, you're responsible as an employer for what happens in those vehicles. And we were able to use things like that to say, because we've done our due diligence, because we're insured, you have confidence in putting your executives in the backseat of a car. If they decide after a night at the bar that they're just going to call an Uber or Lyft, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
You
not,
probably don't want them in your back seat either.
I've
seen Les when he comes home.
That's just not generally our customer either, right? So,
Right.
If we're taking somebody out for a night, we stay with them the entire night. We don't go away and then come back and pick them up later. We just stay with them
value.
the entire night. So
There's a lot of value there.
And it gives the person the flexibility. When you're ready to go, we're there standing by, waiting for you.
Yeah, you call it what? Golden executive transportation, right? You're taking professional people to and from a spot, and they need to be reliable, and they need to know they're going to get there all right. They're going to get there on time.
It was just understanding that you're going to coexist with the Ubers and the Lyfts of the world. It's a great idea that when refined and done the right way with some responsibility to it, that there's a need for that. There's a reason for that. The one part about that I really think is important to talk about with those guys, though, is that you got to know that where that savings is coming from. It's not a $35 ride to the airport. It never is. It never was. So whenever you look at that, something's missing. And so that training's missing. The insurance is missing. But the most important thing is the wage is missing. The wage that the driver is getting, they're sharing that with Uber or Lyft or whoever. So what's crazy about that is that they're doing this work, and now with that little bit of money that's left, they've got to maintain their car. They've got to pay their bills. They've got to put gas in their car and those kinds of things. So
it sounds great till you put paper, pen, pencil to it,
and
start looking at it.
And that thing that they did with renting or leasing cars to the driver makes the driver responsible, and now you have to work with that company. You have to work off your lease. So it's just a tough situation. Again, it's a great idea, and with responsibility, they'll figure it out. They'll work it out. They have figured it out. They'll actually maybe even start making money at some point.
Well, they can't on a model, man. It's economics, right? You got to have a certain thing. But you face that challenge. You've educated your customer base, right? You pivoted on that. You got it going again, and you started just, it's like everything was going downhill at that point, and then what? That knock at the door, and it's Mr. Virus Man, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it was, so again, December of 2019, everything seems to happen from the East Coast and then sweeps across. So on the East Coast, they start talking about, oh my God, business travel is down. And there's something that coming out of China that, oh my God, what's going on? And we're like, well, it ain't hitting here. We're good.
Right.
We're flying. And little by little, all of a sudden, January, February, and March. Okay, so hey, there's a real thing out there, and business travel is like completely shutting down. And March comes, and everybody said, okay, we're going to just shut the world down for 2 weeks. We're like, you can't do that. What are you guys talking about? You're going to shut the world? Everybody just close your doors, shelter in place. That's a horrible phrase. That should be one of those ones that are stricken from the lexicon. Shelter in place for 2 weeks. And basically, we had to shut down our company. Now, we were essential. We provide service for the University of Michigan Hospital, for the transit authority, local transit authority. So As we saw everything shut down, we just sent everybody home. We got down to 9 employees.
Wow.
From 48, 45, 48.
Mm-hmm.
What's amazing is that we had some things in place that we were going to take over some parking shuttle contracts for the University of Michigan Hospital. We were already doing some support work for the Transit Authority, but all of a sudden we became not just essential, but vital. And so once the contracts with the hospital kicked into place, we started hiring. And we went from those 9 employees to 40 to 60 to 80
Wow.
in a matter of from the end of March to early October. And of course, the 2 weeks turned into much, much longer.
Right.
I still don't think we're completely over with the shutdown stuff. But what was amazing is that those folks couldn't stand to be locked up. They wanted to work. They knew the risks.
Mm-hmm.
They were sitting one-on-one, somebody in the front seat, somebody in the back seat. So they're putting their health at risk. They're putting their lives at risk based on what we knew at the time. By coming to work every day, getting a busload of people. And, now we know today, even all of those people wearing masks, it wasn't the safest environment for our people to be in. But those guys got up, they just got up and they went to work every day because they knew we were taking hospital workers to the hospital to take care of folks that just desperately needed them.
Wow.
And we were taking care of those hospitality workers that they were the ones that showed up, right? Our hospitality workers, kind of the lower income workers, we were the ones going to their houses and picking them up and getting them to bus stations or getting them to the grocery store, people that couldn't get out of their house to get to a bus station. And that's what we did from after
Very
that
real.
2-week period was up, still to this day. And that was the pivot for us, was that we turned inward and focused on our community and how can we help the people that are living here get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Man, great story.
It is the story of community, though, because these are all people that live here locally. Everybody that's working for us, they're all local. Just recently, the last few days, the number for our transit went down. And one of my dispatchers just says, well, I'm part of the Facebook page for Ypsilanti. I'll just type out and send out to, they're local. This is their community.
Right.
And that love of community just came through because my people are, I sent them a message the other day to say, listen, you guys are superstars. You guys got up in this freaking snowstorm when all of the schools closed and people shut down, but you guys got up and you went and did your jobs, because hospital workers got to get where they need to go and the workers got to get where they need to go. And you guys did it.
Yeah, no, I'm just always amazed at your team. And like you said, they got up in the morning, they powered through the snowstorm, but they always do it with a smile. It starts with Maya right down there. And we've used, we've had business groups come in for meetings, and we've used the corporate transportation from going Limo with a bus. And, the guy's always talking to us, always polite,
Right.
Yeah.
We're a little depot, right? You got, frankly, right down the street from us at our office, you've got some buses and cars parked, and we share auditorium or lobby there. And the guy's coming in, man. You got a guy that rides a bicycle, man. Rain and snow. The guy's in there on a bicycle, but he's always smiling. He says, man, I couldn't imagine working any place other than Golden Limo. So
I love hearing that. I absolutely love hearing that. We have some, we've got the same challenges as every hospitality industry. It's hard to get the wage to a point where, it's sustainable. And so we worked really hard to get our folks' wages up. It's a real challenge right now, right? Because, our government did some funny things with, helping people survive the pandemic, but it ended up having a kind of a negative effect.
mm-hmm.
It naturally raised the minimum wage. They didn't have to do it federally; they did it naturally, and so we're paying these elevated wages, and that's great for people. It means that we've had to raise all of our rates as well. And what's interesting about that is that I'm seeing that even though we've raised everybody's wages, it hasn't really impacted them because they're still having the same challenges because everything else has been
It's more expensive.
the prices are raised or the volumes have decreased.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I think we're running a little bit long. We got to have you back.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna you'll be the second guy to come back, and I knew this coming in, but no, Sean, I know that you're very passionate about the community, whether it's Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Detroit. You get back there. Education, I think, is something that you're a firm believer in. We got to educate everybody before we can solve any problem.
Absolutely.
We've got to have a way to earn out, and have a job. And I know that you've been a big believer in that. So thank you for making our community better. Thank you for making us better people by being around you and associated with you and working with you. And thank you for your leadership and all you do.
Hey, you gotta
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Gotta ask him a question though.
Oh,
I can't forget.
I know what this guy's answer is, but yeah, we'll get to the layup there. So as we're looking for that bourbon sponsor, how do we drink out of the less Kevin, more tech, UTEC IT glasses given to us by our daughter Grace? What's your favorite flavor to put in this glass?
I am absolutely a Basil Hayden guy. I started out with Elijah Craig. I love Blanton's, but my go-to is always Basil Hayden.
Very well.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you
Cheers.
for being here. Cheers.
Cheers.
This is
Old Elk.
Old Elk.
And just for those out there, if they're watching or listening, Sean has a driver. He's not driving home.
Oh my God, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, thank you, brother. I'm glad you're here, and I love hanging around you. So thank you for making us better people.
Where are we going to breakfast?
Well, we're good.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.